Wi-Fi radiation does all kinds of bad things, including causing cancer.
Wi-Fi radiation causes cancer?
From your cell phone. I mean, there's cell phone tumors. You know that. I mean, I'm representing hundreds of people who have cell phone tumors behind the ear. It's always on the ear that you favor with your cell phone. And you know, we have the science. So if anybody lets us in front of a jury, it will be over. You know,
so what is the number? Because a lot of people use
there's
cell
a lot of people with it. They're glioblastomas. That's the kind of cancers that they get. But cancer's not the worst thing. They also, you know, it opens up, Wi-Fi radiation opens up your blood-brain barrier.
Okay. Wow, that was a lot. But Joe Rogan is apparently back on his anti-vax crusade. He invited anti-vax conspiracy theorist and current presidential candidate, and somehow not the worst one, RFK Jr., and some of the misinformation Joe Rogan gave a platform to, he was using to promote old classic anti-vax ideas like that vaccines cause autism. So let's take a look at that nonsense right now.
There's aluminum in those vaccines, which, you know, operates along the same biological pathways and does the same kind of damage. It's extremely neurotoxic. And then there's other things, lots of other toxics in the vaccines that, you know, could be responsible. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of scientific studies that looked at it, but nobody ever reports them. And everybody will say, oh, there's no study that shows autism and vaccines are connected. That's just crazy. You know, that's people who are not looking at science. So anyway,
but they want to say that. They want to say that. It's
it's just part of the religion.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it really does seem like a religion.
And the heretics have to be burned at the stake.
Yes.
They have to be humiliated, silenced, destroyed.
Personally, I don't like to take my medical advice from someone who sounds like they're actively drowning, but that's just me. Apparently, Joe Rogan differs from me in that regard. But that is, and really unfortunately, only the beginning of RFK Jr.'s crazy theories. He appeared on Jordan Peterson's show, and apparently he styled himself after Alex Jones when he claimed that chemicals we are exposed to are turning our kids trans.
I've seen the climate apocalypse use fear to induce something approximating the same kind of level of tyranny, as far as I'm concerned, that characterized the vaccine lockdown. Help me sort that out and understand where you stand.
How much of that is coming from chemical exposures, including a lot of the sexual dysphoria that we're seeing? They're swimming through a soup of toxic chemicals today. Put atrazine in a tank full of frogs. It will chemically castrate and forcibly feminize every frog in there, and 10% of the frogs, the male frogs, will turn into fully viable females able to produce viable eggs. If it's doing that to frogs, there's a lot of other evidence that it's doing it to human beings as well.
Forced feminization is such an interesting term to use while you're styling yourself as a scientist, and you're talking about frogs who don't have a concept of femininity and masculinity. But nonetheless, there's some more. But Waz, I want to let you jump in on this nonsense. Is this a guy that you would go to for medical advice?
You know, the anti-vax stuff, I think the further people get away from the pandemic and all the deaths and all the heartache that was with it, I honestly think that kind of stuff will become less toxic to people the further we get away from the actual, you know, the horrors that we endured as a people during the pandemic. But, you know, people turning into women from this stuff, like I just don't understand that. And then like people who are anti-trans say it's all fake anyway. This guy's saying that you're actually going to turn into a woman, whereas the people who would normally go for this are like, no, like you don't get it. Like these people are faking it. It's all a mass hysteria. And it's not real. But yeah, I don't think this guy is exactly the most formidable candidate I've ever seen. No, I'm not seeing it, Ray.
Yeah, and that's saying something considering the the array of candidates that we currently have, particularly.
Yeah, he's making Mike Pence look like Abe Lincoln, damn near. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and there was, let's get into the rest of the story because he got a lot of backlash, not just from us here on the watch list, but on Twitter too. So let's pull up this tweet from vaccine scientist Peter Hotez. He tweeted this, calling out the podcast. Spotify has stopped even sort of trying to stem Joe Rogan's vaccine misinformation. It's really true, Anna Merlon, just awful. And from all the online attacks I'm receiving after this absurd podcast, it's clear many actually believe this nonsense. And the response to this was, I felt like I was losing my mind the entire time I was watching this go down this weekend. Joe Rogan replied to him and challenged him to a debate. This person who invented a vaccine, who invented a patent-free vaccine for COVID, to debate RFK Jr., who thinks that vaccines cause autism, which was only shown in one study where the doctor who proved it in the study later had his medical license revoked for fraud, specifically with that study. Anyway, Joe Rogan wants apparently to waste the doctor's time. He says, Peter, if you claim what RFK Jr. is saying is, quote, misinformation, just remember what you heard the guy say. Misinformation is in quotes. I am offering you $100,000 to the charity of your choice if you're willing to debate him on my show with no time limit. I could prove that what he said is false. He said that your phone is making your brain leak out of your ear. I've had a phone since I was 12 years old, and my brain, I'd like to think, is still fully intact. So $100,000, please, to stop Cop City. But of course, like the good clout chaser he is, Elon Musk immediately jumps in and says he's afraid of a public debate because he knows he's wrong, as if a trained scientist and researcher is expected to be, as groomed to be good at debating as a politician. But then the result of this was that Dr. Hotez was doxxed by a deranged anti-vaxxer Joe Rogan fan who accosted him outside his house about debating RFK Jr. So let's watch.
Okay. Oh, are you Peter Hotez?
I am. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Hey. So why are you not gonna debate RFK on Joe Rogan's podcast?
Oh, come on, that's harassing.
I'm just curious.
What?
Nothing hostile. Just curious.
I haven't said anything one way or the other.
I mean, are you planning on doing it?
He just invited me, so we'll see.
And I think you should, though.
Well, we'll give it some.
Okay.
Okay.
And what do you have to say to people who think they're vaccine injured?
Come on.
Anything for them?
Don't come to my house.
I mean, do you have anything to say to people that think? Do you have anything to say to people? Yeah. I mean, do you think vaccine injuries are real, Peter? Peter, it's just a question. Settle the science now. On a safari to go vaccinate more kids?
All right, Guy, first of all, the way you're heavy breathing into your phone to make this video, I think that there's other health risks that you should be worried about when it comes to yourself. Second of all, how dare you walk up to him and say, are you Peter Hotez? You stalked him. You went to his house. You knew what he looked like. Of course, that's Peter Hotez, you idiot. That's what you're there to do. I mean, Waz, this is so absurd. And of course, I haven't seen yet that Joe Rogan has denounced this when obviously him and Elon Musk are the factor that incited this crazy guy to just show up at this doctor's house on Father's Day.
Yeah, I mean, the level of dedication to this stuff is kind of mind-numbing. Like, I know a lot of people, a decent amount of people, by the way, and then this is the thing that I think gets lost on people. There's a certain level of diversity across the board in income level, race, and education of people who don't want to get vaccinated, right? And so I ended up knowing a lot of these people, and they just went out of their way to avoid the vaccine mandates. I don't know anybody who was like, I want to find Fauci or any other guy who advocated for vaccine usage and its ability to fight the ravages of the pandemic. Like, this guy is just especially deranged, and honestly, it makes me think about all these cases across America where this woman was going to get a toy from her neighbor's house and she got shot to death for doing so. And these jokers, they could just run up on people and it's all good. They're gonna run up on the wrong one day, like for real. Like normal, regular people get shot at, get killed for regular everyday interactions in this country. And these folks think they could just run up on people and harass them and talk crazy. That's the wildest part about that to me.
Right. If that doctor decided he wanted to stand his ground to this person who's accosting him on his own property, he probably would have been well within his legal rights to do so.